Hello from Machias, New York again. To all my friends there in Warsaw, thanks for joining me today. It's actually evening here in Machias at the moment. I've been busy of late uh, working on my barn. I got to have a small barn, and I'm in the process of replacing the roof. And that's why so I've got this color this evening is because I've been on the roof most of the day. But I wanted to say hi to you all and share with you a video from myself to you, along with some other videos that I'm going to ask the officer to play for you this week. Since it's coming up on Father's Day on Sunday, I thought it would be appropriate to talk about being fathers and mothers because, well, I missed Mother's Day. So I've got some videos, a couple of skit videos, funny videos, and some Mother's Day and Father's Day songs for you to listen to and ask the Lord to speak to you through. So, just by way of introduction, then, I wanted to share with you briefly from the book of Ephesians in the New Testament. You'll find Paul's letter to the church at Ephesus. If you're not familiar with the book to the Ephesians, I encourage you strongly to check it out yourself. There's some very amazing theology and truth teaching there in the book of Ephesians that I strongly recommend. But I wanted to think with you this evening about relationships, because God is a God of relationships. That's what He is about relationships between Himself and His creatures, us. That's what He wants. He wants to have a personal relationship with you. He wants to enjoy you and for you to enjoy Him. And so, part of the book of Ephesians, after the first several chapters, which are basically theology, Paul writes about relationships. So, I'm looking at chapter 5 in particular, where Paul writes about husbands and wives, marriages, and that vital relationship. And he compares the husband and wife relationship with the relationship with Jesus and the church. Jesus being the head of the church, and so how husbands and wives are to relate to each other according to the scriptures, according to God's design, which is the best. And then in chapter 6, he talks about further relationships, family relationships between children and parents, between children and dads and moms. So let me read just here a few verses from Ephesians chapter 6. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So he's talking here about the relationship between dads and their children, moms and their children. What an amazing gift parenting is. Being able to bring children into this world to cooperate with God and be a part of multiplying this earth, bringing children into this world. It's an amazing gift. And so there's a way, the right way to work out those relationships when God provides parents with children, and how parents are to be obeyed by their children. this is a command that he goes on to say that we're to honor our fathers and our mothers, whether we are young children or old children like myself, and whose mom is 92 years old, going on 93. I still honor her, not because she deserves it. See, she can be quite a challenge sometimes. She has her way, and any other way, you take the highway. But I honor her. I make sure that she is valued. When she calls me on the phone and I'm up on the roof, I answer the phone, and I honor her in that. She hasn't been a perfect mother by any means. Didn't have a perfect father either. But he didn't say that we're to honor them if they're perfect, if they do everything right, if they treat us well. I know some of you probably maybe had parents that didn't treat you so well. That doesn't mean that we still don't honor them, that see that they have value, and make sure that they know that we recognize that they have value to us. We'll probably talk more about how to respond to parents, especially those of you who are have not had maybe the best parents, yet you still need to honor them in spite of that. You don't necessarily like what they do or how they did it, but you recognize that because they're your parents, just because they're your parents, you give them honor. You recognize that they have value to you. They brought you into the world, and the Bible says that we must honor them because it's right. It said we're to obey. Children are to obey parents because it's right. In the Lord, to obey parents in the Lord because it is the right thing to do, and to honor our fathers and mothers. And this is a commandment that is one of the 10 commandments. I'm sure you've heard of the 10 commandments. Well, in Deuteronomy chapter 5, in one place in the Old Testament, 5:16, you'll find that commandment, along with thou shalt not murder and shall not commit adultery. That's one of the commandments. And it's the only commandment with a promise that is tied with it. And that promise is if you honor your father and your mother, it will be well with you. It'll go well with you. Now, that doesn't mean that everything will be happy, happy, happy. But it'll go well with you because there's a promise attached to this commandment. It'll go well with you, and that you may live long on the earth. Now, this promise is for life longevity, compared to years past, where we live a long time, and we can have a meaningful life as a result of honoring our parents, our fathers and our mothers. And he goes on to say, fathers, don't provoke your children. Don't misuse them or mistreat them. Don't provoke them to anger. Don't make fun of them. Don't do things that would provoke them. But on the other hand, he says, bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So that's what we're to do. We're to care for them, love them. I think you'll see some on these videos that you'll be seeing also, along with this one, some ways that a person can, as a father or as a mom, care for their children. And even when things are difficult and difficult decisions have to be made. So fathers are to honor, to care for their children and not provoke them, to anger. So our God is a God of relationships. You'll see that he goes on and talks about slaves and masters. Well, we don't have, well, hopefully you don't have a master as a slave. We do have employers and our employees. We need to maintain those kinds of relationships because that's right. And so he gives some teaching, some guidance concerning that also there in the book of Ephesians. So let's just say that I'm one of my most challenging relationships, one of my most meaningful ways, roles in this world is not just as a chaplain or as an employee or anything like that, but as a dad, as a parent of children. All my children are adults now. I know you'll find it hard to believe, but my oldest son, my oldest child, will be turning 49 next month. He and I are just about 20 years apart. I was a little over 20 when he was born, and we grew up together. And it was has been one of the most rewarding and challenging relationships in my life, in this life. I have four other children who are also now all adults, all with children of their own. And so I have 13 grand or great grandchildren, and they are the joy of my life. Unfortunately, because of this COVID thing, I don't see them as much, at least not in person. We do the story time and video chat and all that stuff with them. But being a dad has been the greatest opportunity for me in my life to care for these gifts that God has provided. So I pray, I hope that same is true for you. There's none of us who are perfect parents. I've made some major mistakes with my children, and sometimes hardly a day goes by when I don't think about and regret some of those decisions that I made in the past as my children were growing up. But I can't live in the past, and we need to move on and become the parent that we need to be, no matter what the age of our children is. So I encourage you in that regard. You may not have had the best role model. My dad died several years ago, and he was a dairy farmer, a strong, silent type. The only time I ever heard him say "I love you" to me was when I initiated it with him. That's just the way he was, right or wrong. But I have learned from that, and I've decided that I would not be that way. I'm still sort of silent type, man of few words. But one thing I do tell my children, no matter what, I love them. My daughter called me today, my oldest daughter, and some problems with relationships, and she was crying on the phone, and I found the opportunity to say, well, yeah, life is life, but you can move on and still be who God has created you to be in spite of life. So may that be so of us as parents and as children of parents. May the truth of God's word be lived out by us. So enjoy, learn from these other videos. The song from Shane and Shane about the daughter. I sent that song to my daughters a couple of years ago, and said to Jesus is all you need. Jesus. One thing we need to do, moms and dads, is point our children to Jesus. After all, he made them. He loaned them to us. So enjoy those videos, learn, grow, let him change you, transform you, because that's who he is. He cares for you. He loves you. He is our Father. That's how we address him, in the Lord's Prayer. He is our Father. He loves us. He loves you. He has a plan and a purpose for you as a dad, as a mom. And only he can guide you to fulfill that plan and purpose. It's his plan and purpose. And so may that be so as you parent. If you haven't children yet, may you be prepared for when that day comes. If it comes, may he prepare you to be the parent that he has called you to be and that he can enable you to be. So, bless you all. Again, hope to see you soon, Lord willing, and looking forward to that, whatever his design is for us during these difficult days. He is still Lord. Bless you all. Have a great week, and we'll be seeing you hopefully soon.